Hey guys, welcome back to TTMR. We're back with me, Sean, and our very special guest Quinn, and today we will be reviewing the new movie Thor Love and Thunder, directed by the amazing Taika Waititi, the same man who brought you the fantastic films Thor Ragnarok and Free Guy.
This movie opens up with meeting who will soon become the villain of this film, Gorr, who's struggling to survive in a desert with his daughter. We see her die and Gorr mourning her death as he sees an oasis in the distance, filled with greens, cold waters, and delicious food, which Gorr takes full advantage of due to him being in such terrible condition. However, our antagonist is born as the god that he worshipped all of his life, Rapu, has not fulfilled his promise of a reward for sticking through with his beliefs and enduring all of the hardships, resulting in Gorr wielding a weapon called the Necro Sword and killing Rapu in his anger, planning to kill all other gods because he believed that's why his daughter was dead. Now we go back to Thor, who now lives a less fulfilling life of meditating all the time until his assistance is required to win a battle, with the Guardians of the Galaxy being some of the ones to seek his help. After fighting for them a lot, Thor parts from the Guardians after receiving a distress signal from Sif, who tells him once he gets to her that the God Butcher, or Gorr, is a serious threat that is targeting Asgard next, so he needs to be ready. Dr. Jane Foster, who is Thor's ex, is dying from stage 4 cancer, and as a last resort reads about Mjolnir, which is said to give good health to the wielder. She arrives at New Asgard and approaches the destroyed hammer, it being reforged as it now rests in her hands. This was actually due to Thor accidentally and unknowingly enchanting it to protect her when they were together.
Thor arrives at New Asgard and is confronted by Gorr and his shadow creatures and encounters Jane, who he is surprised to see but decides to team up with against Gorr. Thor, Jane, Valkyrie, and Korg team up against Gorr and are successful, though he does manage to kidnap some children to the Shadow Realm. To defeat Gorr, Thor and his team decide to travel to Omnipotent City, where they plan on warning the gods of Gorr in the hope of forming a team of gods to defeat the God Butcher. Here, Thor encounters Zeus, who is unwilling to help Thor in his quest, severely injuring Korg in anger as Jane and Valkyrie beat up Zeus's guards alongside Thor. This causes Thor to enter a new state where he catches Zeus's weapon, called Thunderbolt, and throws it back through his heart, supposedly killing Zeus as he falls from his platform. The team now leaves the Omnipotent City in pursuit of the stolen children as Valkyrie steals Thunderbolt. Now, they find themselves in the Shadow Realm on a small planet as the color of the world is desaturated, since Thor was able to communicate with Heimdall's son and find where they were.
Unfortunately, this had been a trap set by Gorr in order to steal Stormbreaker from Thor. The group fights to the best of their abilities. However, Gorr badly beats them, leaving Valkyrie critically injured. Gorr takes Stormbreaker, resulting in everyone retreating as we see him walking into the distance with the newly stolen axe. As the group gets back home, Jane is rushed to the hospital from the overuse of Mjolnir. She and Thor have a discussion about her rejoining the battle, Thor refusing to this as he doesn't want her to risk her life. Thor leaves as Jane is resting in the hospital. He reaches the battlefield as Gorr uses Stormbreaker to open the portal of eternity in an epic final battle. Thor, now struggling to win, is aided by Jane and the children of Asgard. They end up breaking the Necro Sword, but Gorr inevitably walks through the portal. Thor tells Gorr that he knows how he feels. He doesn't want bloodshed or the heads of the gods, but explains how Gorr really wants love, specifically the love from his daughter. Gorr watches as Jane dies in Thor's arms. Gorr asks if Thor will look after his daughter. Thor, of course, agreeing to this. This results in Gorr wishing for his daughter back as he cries and holds her head in his hands, dying as Thor looks at the child. We now go back to New Asgard, where the children are being taught to fight by Valkyrie and Sif. We see Thor caring for the child. He's reunited with Mjolnir and has Stormbreaker by his side. The film ends with the shot of Thor and his new daughter as they save a village of people.
This movie is incredible, but it seems that most Phase 4 movies don't have that same kind of quality that was present in the early additions to the MCU. Don't get me wrong, this movie did not disappoint, but I feel that Marvel has been really lazy compared to the previous solo MCU films, which is especially noticeable in the pacing of the film. One moment that exemplifies this is the battle against Gorr in the Shadow Realm, since it felt like the fight was forced forward too quickly. It felt like such an important battle that was reduced to such a small amount of time as we see Gorr walk away with Stormbreaker.
I loved this movie. However, I did have a few problems with it, like how they killed Mighty Thor. I don't see why they needed to kill her off. She's just such an extraordinary character in the comics, having many important appearances, so I see it as kind of a waste to just kill her off, but that's just my opinion. I also felt like the movie looked like a TV show at some points. Half the movie looked phenomenal while the other half looked kinda poor. The CGI was just really questionable sometimes, but my god, when the CGI was good, it was really good.
Although there were definitely some rough parts of this movie, I overall really enjoyed it. One of the aspects of this movie that really stands out to me and is by far my favorite part of the film is the villain, Gore the God Butcher. Personally, I thought there were good motivations set up at the beginning of the movie that made sense in a satisfying way at the end. And overall, he just looks so damn cool and menacing in most of the shots. Personally, the scene where Gore fights everyone on the small planet in the Shadow Realm is an absolutely incredible shot and shows how awesome of a villain he is.
I couldn't agree more with what Sean just said. Gore was an incredible villain, and holy shit, he was genuinely scary. There were multiple times in the movie when I felt like he was just staring into my soul. Oh, and that soundtrack! Michael Giacchino did it again. He made a soundtrack just as good, if not better than Thor Ragnarok. I also absolutely love how they got Luke Hemsworth, Matt Damon, and Melissa McCarthy to play fake Thor, Loki, and Hela in the play at New Asgard. It was just such a dumb yet hilarious scene, and I love that. Oh, and the goats. God, I love those goats. The story was incredible. Everything added up to a satisfying and believable ending. The characters were at their best in this movie. Korg was hilarious as usual. Thor was badass. Mighty Thor was incredibly well written and got a great amount of screen time. And Valkyrie was just an overall mix of all the other characters.
With all that has been discussed previously between the three of us, we all together have agreed that we like this movie, though we can definitely see the weak points present in the film. Sean, Max, and I all rated this movie a 9 out of 10. This averages to a combined score of 90%, which is a quite decent score.
We definitely had to think over these scores when discussing them amongst ourselves, since this movie seems to be unbelievably strong in some areas, take the villain for example, but certainly weak but not necessarily terrible in others, like the CGI. The reason that these scores may be higher than our thoughts have alluded to is because overall it is a good movie, and I think that we can all agree that we had a good time while watching it, so it's definitely still worth a watch even with a few shortcomings.
If you like Thor Ragnarok at all, then this is definitely the movie for you. I personally like Thor Ragnarok more, but this is practically the same feel, just a few minor changes. Even if you see the bad reviews online, this movie really isn't a terrible watch in the slightest. As Sean said, the positives are extremely positive. I'm sure you could tell by some of the things we raved about earlier.
So with that being said, that has been our review of Thor Love and Thunder.
Remember that this is just our opinion, so you don't necessarily have to believe everything that's said here.
We hope you all have an amazing rest of your day, and if you enjoyed, you could like or subscribe to help us out. Thank you guys so much for watching. Have a great day.